Welcome to the Rise to Shine podcast with Noelle Custis, where we ignite the spark to discover your favorite self. It is time to get real, ladies. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Rise to Shine podcast. I'm your host, Noelle Custis, and I am so excited that you're here. Before we get started, I just want to let you know that today's conversation will include beautiful, faith-based discussions about healing, mind, body, and spirit. So no matter where you are on your journey, my heart is that you are going to feel so welcomed here. This space is really about growth. It's about hope and real conversations that meet you right where you are. So with that being said, I had the absolute gift of meeting today's guest, Jaclyn, at the Infinity Conference I attended recently. And I have to tell you, the experience she led us through truly moved me. It was one of those moments that I just feel like stays with you. She is a faith-based holistic health coach and movement facilitator who helps women reclaim their health, embrace inner peace, and grow closer to God. After walking through years of chronic health struggles, she found true healing, not just physically, but spiritually. And that journey led her to create the Release Method, which is a powerful somatic movement experience helping women release trapped emotions and step boldly into their God-given purpose. Her story is so powerful, and if any of this sounds confusing right now, I promise it will not be by the end of this conversation. So I cannot wait for you to hear all about her and what she's about today. So welcome, Jaclyn. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you so much for having me, Noelle. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, I want to just jump right in because I know we're going to have so much to talk about. So I would love to really just start with the heart of it all. So who is Jaclyn? Not just what you do, but tell us about yourself and who you are at the core today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. Where do we start, right? It's been a journey. I know we all think like, oh, just tell us your story, tell us about you. And it's like, where do we even start?
Right.
But at the core, just me as a person, I love Jesus, I love nature, I love female entrepreneurs so much. I am one, but I also just have such a beautiful space in my heart for them because I know they work so hard, tirelessly, and work so many jobs, especially if they're mothers in their lives. So I love them so much. And really, the person I am today is a testimony of my struggles that I've been through. One of the biggest struggles I went through myself, two biggest struggles in my life. One was with my health, where I suffered from chronic illness symptoms for a majority of my life that many doctors gaslit and told me I was never going to heal, or it was all in my head, or, there was no cure for me. And that led me down to the holistic healing path where you change your diet, you start to get more sun, you do movement, you take supplements. And I was able to reverse IBS, endometriosis, a lot of other chronic symptoms that really didn't have a specific diagnosis, and really regain my life back because for many of those years, I truly didn't want to live. And so that shaped me. It created a lot of resilience in me. I know we're all very resilient. It created a lot of resiliency in me. It created a lot of strength that I didn't know I had to pull yourself out of a pit like that alongside God. And it really just shaped me who I am. And the second thing, which I know so many people can relate to, was when I lost my mother about 3.5 years ago, which was a whole new healing journey in itself, where many of those symptoms came rushing back. And I thought, oh no, I had healed from these things. Why are these things back? But that's when I learned about trapped emotions. That's when I understood what it meant to be suppressing emotions, and ultimately what led me to create Release Method when I started to experience releasing that myself. And so here I am, resilient, strong, but also very vulnerable, oftentimes very weak. And just my heart is so big for healing because I know so many women need it.
Yeah, wow. Well, you've definitely walked a very powerful healing journey, and those two turning points, if you will, just really speak volumes because I do feel like so many women can relate to either both or one of them for sure. So I'd love for you to just take us back a little bit because I definitely want to talk about what the turning point was when you decided enough is enough and began to seek all of your own answers. But what was life like before? So before all of this had happened, were you just finding yourself, was it, the health part of it? Let's just go back to that part. Now you mentioned endometriosis, which it's so interesting because my mom was actually diagnosed with that back in I would say late 80s, early 90s, and no one knew what it was. I mean, she was going through test after test. We live in California. She would have to go to UCLA. I mean, it was a very just not talked about thing. And I now am so grateful because not that I'm grateful that this is something that, women are still dealing with, but I'm just so grateful that we are starting to get answers. But you mentioned something about feeling gaslit. And so that's where I guess I'm unpacking a whole bunch of things because my mind
Wow.
is rolling. But let's go back to before.
Yeah.
Before all of this kind of hit that big peak, what was life like before that? What were you doing? What was happening in Jaclyn's world?
Yeah, and specifically, you're speaking of what was happening before I hit that breaking point in my
Yeah.
healing journey with my chronic
Yes.
symptoms. Yeah, thank you for asking. I mean, I just got chills because, so many women um, struggle with these symptoms. And like you said about your mom, that she had to jump through hoops to get this
Mm,
endometriosis diagnosis. Most, I cannot remember the statistic. I wish I had it at the top of my head, but I know it's above 50% of women who have endometriosis do not actually find a diagnosis because it's very hard. It looks like IBS or it looks like
mm,
PCOS or it looks like fibroids. And then, no, none of that stuff came up. So I spent the majority of my childhood and teens always bloated, looking pregnant, even as a kid. It was kind of like something we
yeah.
almost made fun of, because it's like,
Hmm.
oh, we ate, there goes Jaclyn's belly. It's like big, very embarrassing gas, diarrhea, constipation, just fluctuating all the times. Like I could never wake up and just say, oh, I had healthy bowel movement and I feel good today,
Hmm.
like I can today, which I will never take that for granted ever again.
Right.
I had chronic fatigue, I had anxiety, crippling anxiety, where it would resonate as social anxiety. So specifically, I remember this one time, and this actually was in my 30s. This was kind of when I had a flare up in my 30s. I remember sitting on the floor in my closet, and I couldn't find anything to wear because my belly hurt. I was tired. I had like acne on my face. And I just thought nothing I'm going to put on right now is going to make me feel any better. It's always going to make me feel worse. And I just started panicking. So I would have these like panic moments like, I don't want to go to this place because I feel so ugly. I feel so ill. I feel so sick. And that, those are the feelings that make us not want to be alive. Those feelings that make us feel unworthy, inadequate, ugly, all of these things that we feel. And I just felt a lot of shame and guilt over it. And it crippled me in many ways. Spent a lot of time in bed or hiding from that, or, covering it up with humor.
Yeah.
Another way we do it.
Right, right. I mean, so many women, myself included,
Mhm.
silently have struggled or are currently struggling with chronic symptoms and feeling, I think the biggest thing is feeling dismissed. Feeling, again, you feel that shame around it. You kind of just figure out ways to do life and to deal with it. How many women do we hear just say, like, yeah, I've just dealt with it until there comes a time. And that is what I would love to know is what was the turning point when you decided enough is enough and you began to seek your own answers?
Absolutely, 100%. And it does frustrate me so much when, people will get labs back and the doctors will say, oh, everything's normal. It's
Mm,
fine. This is just age. This is just that. Or take something for it. Because there are, and whoever's listening to this right now, I want you to know there are answers. That's like my
yes.
biggest hope for everybody. There's answers. So the biggest breaking point for me, and many people don't even know this about me, but I was a hairstylist for 12 years, right out of high school. And I hustled. Like I killed it as a hairstylist. I worked so hard.
Mm,
And at 29, it was the year that I was engaged to my ex-husband, and we're planning the wedding, and I'm working so hard as a hairstylist. And one day I just like collapsed and I couldn't really breathe, not due to anxiety, but my lungs. And I was so bloated. I was at that point. That was also, like around that time, I had a lot of that panic too. And I just thought, I can't do this anymore. This is not, I literally can't live. And honestly, I'm being super vulnerable. I don't think I've ever said this out loud before, but it was either just die or something
mm,
drastic. Like,
wow.
you know what I mean? Like, and here I am in that picture on the outside. I have this, nice fiance. I'm getting married. We're having a beautiful wedding. And I literally don't even want to look at anybody. Right.
Wow.
And so I went to him and I said, I need to quit doing hair. And at the time, like this was probably, well, it's like 12 years ago. I was making 80, 90K as a hairstylist working 4 days a week.
Okay.
Right, right. Like, why would I
Mhm.
quit that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like 4 days a week. Like it was great living, and I loved my clients, and it felt good,
Hmm.
but it didn't feel good. It's like some things feel good, but they don't feel good. I'm sure it's like we know we're going down the wrong path when our body is literally saying no, but our mind's like, well, it's still honest living, and we do this or that.
Right.
Um, I learned today that no amount of success in your business is successful without your physical or mental health intact.
Yes.
You know what I
Thank
mean?
you. Thank you for saying that.
Business is not successful if you can't wake up. You know,
Yes.
so I learned a lot there. So I said to him, and he said, "So quit." And men are so easy, right? Like they're just simple, and I'm saying that in a positive way. I wish I could be
Right.
simple like a man.
We have such a similar story in this. My husband did the same thing, so I get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
They're so black and white in that, right?
yeah,
Like, okay, so change it.
yeah. Figure it out. Okay, great. Okay, well, let me think about that. Gosh, I have to tell, hundreds of women I won't be coming back.
Yeah.
But I ended up quitting. And we got married. I quit and I let it all go. And he just said, just take some time to heal. I will tell you, the first 3 months, I did nothing. I was like a wet noodle. I slept probably around 19 hours a day. So I would have my sleep at night, 9 or 10 hours at night, and then I would just wake up, maybe go for a walk, eat breakfast, need another nap, wake up. And I was like, if I didn't have those 3 months, I
Mm,
never would have been able to heal. And women don't want to always hear that. We need a season of healing, not just we're doing a diet or we're taking the supplement to get better, but a full downshift, complete shut off season. And like
wow.
3 months, I usually recommend because 3 cycles is typically how it takes a woman to regenerate. I didn't know
Okay.
that at the time. In those 3 months, after I started to gain my energy back and started to feel better, I decided to go back to school to be a trainer, like a physical trainer, personal trainer.
Okay.
The personal trainer job that I had led me to dive more into holistic nutrition, not just dieting culture, but literally healing your body with foods. So then I went back to school at Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Just you're kind of searching, who am I now without being
Yeah.
a stylist? Have you ever had a transition in your life where you're like, who am I now? From so many
Yes.
women leave corporate and then they're like, who am I now?
Right.
Yeah. So who am I now? And I
Yeah.
wanted to do Institute for Integrative Nutrition to heal myself.
Hmm.
But then I became so in love with it and saw how much it was replenishing me and bringing me back to life. And I basically 1 year later launched my health coaching business, which originally was called Jaclyn Renee Wellness. It's still intact today. And I do coach many women on holistic healing, chronic illness symptoms, um, nutrition, mental health, proactive stress management, the same way I did right in the beginning, because it's all the same all the time.
Right. Hmm.
And so that was sort of the breaking point, but it always takes the breakdown for the breakthrough, always,
Mm, mm.
multiple times.
Right, right. So you go through all of this, physical healing. So and so I always find it so interesting because so many women have shared on this podcast, and again, myself included. This is why I knew my energy was so drawn to you. I had no idea that we had so much in common, but I found what I do now through the breakdown, through the okay, I want to just heal myself. And as I was going through that process, then it was like God spoke to me that this was going to be more than just your own healing, but it was time for you to put this out into the world to help others heal as well. So interesting that that was your path as well. And, so you're going through this physical healing and I feel like I remember maybe at the conference, maybe it was just, of course, devoured your content and was following you. I wanted to know everything about you, but I remember you mentioning something about that there was a deeper mental and like spiritual void. So, like, as you were going through this process. So, yes, you were healing physically, you were getting better, you were tapping into all of this, but there was this spiritual void. Can you just share what that season was like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh Lord, the season of healing, you're asking, the
Mm,
season of getting
hmm.
better, right?
Yeah.
It was it was eye-opening. It was very eye-opening. I think we go through a process of emotions when we're learning something new that is directly affecting and benefiting us. So, what are the seven stages of grief, right? First step was anger. Like, why are doctors not talking about this? Why aren't they teaching this in school about
Mm,
your body? I didn't even learn that I had four phases of a cycle until I was 31 years old.
right.
31.
I know.
You know?
And some people are even older. Some people are just starting to hear it.
Oh,
It
yeah.
blows my mind.
Yes. I mean,
Yes.
and so instead of sex education as a 15-year-old, they should have been talking to us about our periods and like what that
Right.
means, and prevention of pregnancy,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And so the anger was like the first stage, then the complete exhaustion, like that full breakdown of I have no energy. And then it was like, okay, let's start to build a foundation. And what does a foundation mean? And this is why I really despise diet culture so much, which is like I think it's like a $41 billion industry or something like
Mhm.
that,
Something
diet
like that.
culture.
Yeah.
Um, is I despise it because it's so short term.
Mm,
And even then, I could step into the healing industry and it will be the same way. Trendy diets, do the carnivore diet, be paleo, be vegan, do this juicing fast. It's always short term. But
right.
what IAN taught was long term. And so I was learning how to apply small, tiny baby principles to my day that had massive impact. And so it was just kind of like one by one, I need to just focus on it, build this as what I call today a non-negotiable, a strength building habit, and then can go on to the next one. So even in my coaching, I often don't even in my programs, I don't give them just here's the program, let's move. It's like little by little, we're processing things, we're taking things out, we're renewing things when we put back in. And so it was like crawling, right? So I was like a little
Mm,
bit of crawl, maybe put my foot up, things like walking at sunrise. That has been the biggest change for me. So life changing, but you can't really sell that on the internet. You know what I mean?
right.
Like,
Right.
but these tiny little habits. And so it was like angry, breakdown, and then I was like a baby crawling to
Mhm.
walk into this. And it really went like that, like
Wow.
drastic down curve, and then slow climbing hill.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love that because I think that's, I think that that is such an important message to talk about. And that's why I wanted to tap into it with you because, oftentimes, like you said, it's just like these quick fixes. How can we do this quickly? How can we we're so desperate in
Yes.
oftentimes to just feel better, whether it be physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever that is. And then we want those quick fixes, but it's so much more than that. I mean, the fact that you even shared with us that it was 3 months of you stepping back. I mean, most women are going to listen to that and go, okay, well, I don't have 3 months. Like, so what do I do? And that's what I love is that, you talk about it's baby steps. So I would love to just, just with that,
Mhm.
if someone comes back with that response of like, I don't have that time to just step back and do that, but what can I do as far as that physical and mental health, like to be able to start feeling better? What would be some of the things that you would talk about?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm super honest. I know you just met me, but I know you kind of know my vibe from Infinity. So you know I'm going to jump in with a super honest comment is
Which I love.
very easy that if I didn't take those 3 months, I probably, and I'm going to just be drastic on it, I probably would have died. Or
Okay.
something drastic, like I would have been bedridden, or, who knows what would have happened to me. I know that because I know the depths of that. And so I say to the woman who says that they don't have 3 months, think about your next 30 years. Do
Yeah.
you want to continue operating in the same space you're in right now in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years? And then age is not on our side, so it's going to increasingly get worse. And
Mm,
can you do that? What is 3 months? I mean, sometimes people be like, I can't believe it's April. Time goes so fast. And then they'll be like,
right.
I don't have 3 months. Time is everything. I'm like, wait, which is it? Do we have enough time or do we not have enough time? But what we really want to do is take a step back from our lives and say, can I operate in the way I'm operating right now, a year from now, 5 years from now? And if the answer is no, then all you have is 3 months. Like that's all that's in front of you right now. And for
Such a-
many of those who have kids, I haven't had the blessing of children yet, but for those who have kids, it's even more important because they need you, right? And so it's like, how can we take a step back? However, I know people want actionable steps that they can do right now. They're gonna fight me on this. They're gonna fight me on not being able to take a break. Listen, you will be relevant, you will be validated, your business will be there when you come back. However, if you can find substantial rest and recovery while still providing in the way you're providing, then it can work. My
Mm,
biggest things are it's going to be more about less versus more. So what can you take out? I mean, I would go through my calendar and I would just strip things. I'd be making calls like, listen, you got to understand, I'm going through something, I'm not going to make it. Take that off the calendar.
so
Take that off
good.
the calendar. Take that off the calendar. And if you have kids, maybe that's stripping them some of the things too, so you guys can just be together in the backyard, and not be racing around in the car, jumping in and out, those kinds of things. That's one thing. The second thing is, to me, food has become very sacred. And I am about to put a post out about this. I'm very excited about it. But it says, if you were eating your meal across from Jesus, how would you change your eating habits?
Wow.
I just got chills.
I just got chills too. Oh my goodness. Never have I thought about that.
I just did the other day, right?
Wow.
And I've been in nutrition and following Jesus for a long time, but I did that. This morning specifically, I sat down and I was like, close your eyes and imagine if Jesus is in front of you right now. And it slowed me down. I know it's like, whoo, through every
That's big.
cell, through every cell.
Oh my
But
gosh.
the big reason why women struggle with chronic illness is because they're rushing when they're eating. They're eating things fast. They're eating processed things because that's what's convenient. Mostly at lunch, usually to get through the day. I just need to get through the day. I just need some energy. But that it's like with every bite, you're either fighting or feeding your illness. So, what is that? It alters your brain chemistry to sit down and say, can I take 6 minutes to eat this food and pretend as if, I mean, we also don't have to pretend because he's always with us, but as if I'm just sitting there, like having a conversation with him,
Yeah.
would I be shoving food in my mouth?
Right.
He'd be like, hello, your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. Slow down.
Right. Right. Not to
Yeah.
mention, like, just even enjoying food in a different way and like taking the time, like that. I think about all of that. Like, it opens up such a huge, perspective that I'm sitting here thinking about that, and wow. Wow, you've got me thinking, girl.
Right?
Yes.
Because that was such a big thought, I'll loop back. So we have, number one,
Yep.
pull stuff out of your schedule. Slow your bum down.
Hmm.
Life is not going to happen faster if you move faster. In fact, the number one reason why people, do suffer with chronic illness or get in that car accident or, drop something right before they're coming out the door is because they're rushing. So how can we slow down? I love this mantra or like affirmation. I'm always in a hurry, but I'm always on time, but I'm never in a hurry.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
never,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So, and then number two, how can I change my eating patterns? How can I schedule meals as sacred and as if I'm sitting across from Jesus and eating with him? The
Hmm.
third one is the most healing element in the entire planet is the sun. And we are blessed in Arizona to have the sun
Yes.
pretty much 365 days a year, even when it's cloudy. So that I start every day in the sun, sunrise, and I end every night sunset outside. Whether it's a walk or I just sit on a stool, with my dog, and I just sit there and watch the sun or whatever it is. But sunrise and sunset resets your circadian rhythm. And our circadian rhythm, women have two rhythms, circadian and an infradian. Even if they're past menopause and don't get a cycle, they're still working in that infradian cycle. And the 24-hour cycle regulates sleep, breath, stress, those kinds of things. And we wake with the sun, we go to bed with the sunset. And so the more you can expose yourself to that, the more it regulates your nervous system, it lowers cortisol. Everybody be talking about cortisol right now. So
Yep. Yep.
cortisol, you don't need a supplement, you need the sun. And then it helps sleep, deepen your sleep, improve focus as well too. I feel like that feels bite-sized and tangible. Let's let that settle
Totally.
for people.
It's so good. I mean, it's so, so good because, oh gosh, I just love this conversation so much. I just feel like this is such a chef's kiss because it is really, really tapping into all of the things that are the most important. And this is where I tell women when we talk about self-care, it is not just about going and getting a mani and pedi because you want some time away from your kids or, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a spa day. And this is, my big investment because it's not cheap to do that. And this is my big investment. Ladies, if you're hearing this, please, please, take this in because it is about right here what you have and this body and this, energy, all of the stuff that makes you uniquely you. And if you're feeling the burnout, if you're feeling the chronic fatigue or the chronic pain, whatever that is, take care of yourself and invest to take that rest
Mhm.
and do the things. I loved that you said, even if you cannot take off those 3 months. And there are ways, I will say, like, there are ways that you can. I know it feels foreign because we are not used to taking a pause, but taking rest. And if you absolutely have to continue to work through that, which I get as well, as a single mom, I remember being in that place. But man, I wish I would have known what I know now of how I would have started to pull back things, pulling back those things that we thought were so important that were just keeping us in this busy state, which then was masking everything else. Like we were staying busy so we didn't have to really think and heal. And then that just put us in a spiral of getting worse in the long run. And now, I know you're in your 30s, you said. Is
Oh,
that
I'm 42.
Oh
Four-
gosh, girl, you look
Yeah.
amazing. Okay.
Thank
So
you.
you're 40, you're in your early 40s. I
Yeah.
am about 10 years older than you are. And I can even say that in 10 years from being in my early 40s, like it changes and we start to look at time in such a different perspective as well. And
Yes.
you start to realize how your time on this earth right now is so important. And
Mhm.
what you do with it to start to heal is so important. And that is going to then, because we don't know what's in front of us. And we know that there are, life isn't going to always be easy
Mhm.
even as we're going through the healing process. And I know for you, the second thing that you mentioned was you went through this healing journey, physically getting better, all of the things. And then
Mhm.
3 years ago, you lost your mom. And
Mhm.
that was another huge point in your life that changed you. Can you, not that you have to go all into details about that, but can you just tell us kind of like what that season was like for you? Because I know that it's just something that it's inevitable. We're going to lose people we love, or we're going to go through massive trauma.
Absolutely. Yeah, pain is inevitable, life is inevitable, stress is inevitable. And like if you even, if you're even reading the Bible, like nobody had it easy. It's never been easy
Right.
for anyone. Every single person in the Bible experienced many valleys, many peaks, many valleys, many peaks, and that's
Yeah.
what it is. But one thing I am super grateful for was the tools I had built and the resilience I had built prior to my mom passing. That's not to say it didn't hit me like a Mack truck and
Right.
explode me into a bunch of new symptoms I had never experienced before, which
Mhm.
ultimately led me to this other healing journey. But
Yeah.
if I hadn't had, a healthy mind, a healthy body, these kinds of things where I felt grounded in who I was and had God on my side, I probably would have went back to that place of, feeling suicidal, feeling super sick. And but I was able to pull myself out of it much quicker and to recognize what I needed when I needed it, which was the most powerful thing. Because when things weren't working, um, well, I'll go back and I'll kind of tell you. So
Yeah.
here I am trugging along. I was living in Cabo, living my best life, going to the beach every day with my little dog in my cute little apartment, loving life in Mexico. And basically get a call from my mom that they're doing a biopsy. I do not, no one likes the word biopsy. We don't like
Right.
it. It's just, it's one of those scary words that you're like, what? No, we don't need biopsies. And so she says she's getting a biopsy because they found something. I won't go into details. Long
Yeah.
story short, I fly back to Michigan to get the results with her of the biopsy.
Mhm.
Bam, it's small cell carcinoma in the lungs. Like, it's not even just like, hey, you have this little cancer. It's like, you have this fatal cancer. It
Mhm.
doesn't even have a stage.
Mm.
We don't know how to catch it, but we're going to take you to oncologists and we're going to start treatment immediately. And
Mm.
my brain is like, Western medicine, I hate it. Let's bring her to Mexico. Let's put her on a juicing cleanse. Let's put her in, and she's
Yeah.
by the book. And so
Uh-huh.
we already have that barrier.
Yeah.
And I'm just watching it happen before me where and you know what, I'm going to say this before I say it. I have nothing against Western medicine because I know if I
Right.
broke my arm, I would drastically need it. But I don't like in this situation, the certain situations, I struggled to watch them just nuke her basically.
Yeah.
They radiated her twice. Once they radiated her on the brain, and she didn't even have cancer in her brain. She had it in her lung and liver, and so it was a preventative. Threw her in the hospital with pneumonia for 13 days and she died 2 weeks later. And so I just was like, gosh, there were so many things that could have been helpful in these moments, but weren't in place. And for 1 year, I just dealt with it. I was
Mhm.
still eating my healthy food. I was still working out. I was doing all the stuff you had to do for, healing.
Mhm.
And then when the pain dried, or when the dust settled, whatever the saying is, when the dust settled, I woke up in chronic pain. I couldn't put my feet on the ground from my bed. Here I am, 41. Couldn't put my feet on the ground from my bed without my whole body aching, right? It's like, oh, you have plantar fasciitis. I was like, that can't be. It's my whole body. And then my acne broke out, cystic acne all over my face. My belly was bloated again. My anxiety was back in like a fog. I was trying to think of the word, but yeah, like a fog of depression.
Mm-hmm.
Felt again like so heavy,
Mm.
so heavy. And so I was just like, how am I going to get myself out of this
Yeah.
again?
Yeah.
So you turn to where you turn to when you have nothing left, which I don't know why we go there last,
Right?
but got on my knees to God and prayed for answers. And little by little, he just kept giving me the answers. He would say, don't eat this, eat this. Move like this, don't move like that. Don't go to the gym anymore, just walk. It was like
Mm.
he was giving me the tools for my own holistic healing program, to come out of such a depth of grief that was suppressing me. And then that's when he started giving me those tools that created into release method, those somatic movements, like being angry, allowing myself to process things, moving through those emotions, and not just moving through the motions of, I worked out, I ate my greens, blah, blah, blah. It was like, no,
Yeah.
now we need to go deeper into emotional healing,
Mm-hmm.
which is different from body holistic healing. So that's where that propelled off from. And it was an epic transformation until now where, again, you look back at your life and you're like, yeah, I made it through again.
Yeah.
Here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's just huge, and I, I just, again, going back to that whole like, if, as you're listening to this, just to think about this, that, you know, when you're living out your life, again, there's going to be things that you're going to come up against. And I really believe with all of my soul, and then hearing your story, it's just more confirmation of I just believe that there are so many things that in my healing journey in the last 10 years, but most specifically in the last couple of years, helps me to deal with the things that I come up against that are hard and seasons that are hard or the loss of someone, because it's not to say that it all doesn't still impact us and hurt and we have to go through it all. However, like you said, it's having the tools, it's having what we need to be able to get up a little bit faster, to be able to not stay in it, all of those things. But I definitely want to hit on your release method because I feel like it so impacted me when we met at this conference. And I have learned that movement is such a powerful tool, but movement, like in regards to those trapped emotions, to those things that we have like inside of us. So, especially when things are done really intentionally. And I felt like this was very intentional, what we did and what you led us through. But man, so much came out of it. So, tell us all of the things. Tell us about, obviously you were inspired to create this through the experience of going through your mom, but what is the release method? What would you love to share about this?
Thank you so much for asking. Yeah, I'm so happy that it was a transformative experience for,
Mm.
sometimes in a large group setting, I think there was like 42 women, one man in the room. And, you curate an experience to really provide transformation for what they're going through. And not always every single person gets incorporated, right? So I've heard from a lot of people that it was very transformative, and it makes me truly believe at how powerful this method can be for transformation. But what I did was I curated it to be sort of like almost like a roller coaster, like a
Hmm.
slow roll up, a peak in the middle, and then you kind of come down. And what I realized is I did a lot of studying about hermetic stress. So hormesis or hermetic stress is the process of exposing yourself to a stressful situation or putting yourself under stress and then regulating after. So your body
Mm.
frees emotion and then also um, adapts to stress really well. So think cold plunge, right? Like that's a short term
Yeah.
push of stress on the body. And then they always say regulate after by squatting and like moving and then warming up. That's basically what we're doing in this. So right off the bat, my thought process in developing release method is we got to determine, because I think so many people are so covered with emotions. Like some days I'm moody, some days I'm happy, some days I'm angry, some days I'm sad. That in a process of removing an emotion, we want to pinpoint one. So in the beginning, I go through a process of taking you through pinpointing one emotion, and it's always resonating in one part of the body. If you've read things like The Body Keeps Score or the Emotion Code, they're always going to talk about that emotions get trapped and stuck in parts of your body. For me, grief was trapped a lot in my throat and my chest. And so we find that emotion, we figure out where it is in the body, and that becomes our statement for the duration of the class. So we can release that one emotion, which is usually tied to multiple emotions.
Yeah.
That's done with meditation. And then the next process is to journal. And that's because when it's in our head, it's sort of swirling around, we need to process it. And my specific prompt is to process that emotion with intuitively thinking of a time in your life that that emotion became true for you. For
Mm.
instance, well, maybe I can ask you if you could share. Do you remember what your emotion and body part was for the class?
Yeah. So my emotion was fear. It was fear. It was actually fear of loss ultimately. And it was definitely for me, like in the chest area for sure.
Yeah. And so then once someone comes up with their emotion and where they are, and I will say in the journal prompt, when is the first time you experienced this emotion? And
Mhm.
immediately for so many people, it will just prompt, we will think of an exact time.
I knew when you said that, I remember I went to when I was 8 years old, like literally just boom.
Yep, and that story just comes up. The subconscious
Yep.
just projects it because it's like, oh,
Oh, I
now
have chills again. Yeah.
now I know where that emotion started in my life, where it's stored in the subconscious, and that ideally you've been holding that in for years and developing defense mechanisms and other stories that validate that emotion for the last 40 something years.
Yeah.
Right? And so now we start to unpack it. The first
Hmm.
thing I need to do is drop people into their body. And I don't like to do that in a serious way. I like to do it in a fun way. So I have them dance. That's like somatic movement part one, right? We stretch, we dance a little bit. I want a smile on their face. I want them to feel out of their head and into their body because it's heavy.
Yeah.
The second part, which we went through something specific there, but when you're in a regular release method class, the second part is to start using your voice and start moving your body, like thrashing it around, usually from the throat, pulling out vagal tones and thrashing. Then we'll
Mhm.
go into more of a belly vagal tone and thrashing around. And the final piece de resistance is that we throw an adult temper tantrum. And this
Mhm.
can look anything like you want it to. You can be punching a pillow on the floor. You could be screaming into a pillow. You can be screaming out loud. You can be running in place. But whatever starts to really turn that emotion into energy and then just pop, it pulls out that specific. And I'll have people repeat that. I release, fear from my throat or whatever it is to
Yeah.
pull it out. So now we're at the peak of like the hormetic stress, right? We're like,
Right.
there. We come down and we down regulate. And just down regulating can be, rocking, breathing, holding yourself. For many classes, I'll call in the Holy Spirit just to make sure we feel protected, divinely protected in the place. Breathe, come back down, and finish with a beautiful visualization that helps you take action into the next journey of what does it mean to release fear, and how will I act now knowing fear is in my past and I can move forward.
Yeah.
That's the release.
Yeah. You guys, I am telling you, I have been to a lot of retreats, conferences, different gatherings where we have done some of this, this type of work. I'm not even going to say this is so unlike anything I have done, um, as far as somatic work. And I have got to tell, because normally, I do the like, oh gosh, here we go. Like, this is going to be very vulnerable. It's very uncomfortable. And I have to tell you, Jaclyn, that it was like, normally when someone tells me that I have to get up and dance, I'm like, oh dear Lord. Now, it's just something about it. I love to dance. Like, that's the crazy part. But there's something about that vulnerability of like doing it. What happened with the way that the way this method is designed, it was as if, in a way, I was the only person in the room. Even though there were other people in the room, there was something that happened in that experience, especially like when she talks about this adult temper tantrum. You guys, when she says it's a temper tantrum, I'm telling you, it sounds wild, but the moment you are in it and the journey that you are on, it is such a release. And I did not feel, because when I just hear that, I go, oh my gosh, I'm going to feel like an idiot doing this. Like, and this is going to feel uncomfortable. And therefore, I'm not going to maybe do it like to the extent that it should be done. Was not the case at all. It was the total opposite. I think what I loved about it too, though, is the way you approached it was very letting ourselves just come to a place of intention and coming to a place of, we are going to walk through this, and you have an energy about you that brings out this comfort level and this safety, that I felt very safe in this place. And it was just like everybody else melted away. And I really didn't notice anybody else until we were directed to notice other people, if that makes sense. I know there's so much to it. You had to be in the room,
Yeah.
but telling you that this is absolute gold. What this method is unlike anything I've ever experienced. And really, like I said at the beginning, when it stuck with me, it stuck with me. It is powerful. It is so powerful, Jaclyn. Like, I just, I know we were talking about it before this episode, and you were like, oh my gosh, if I could, I just loved doing that. And if I could do that all the time, every day, that is how I would be doing life. And I'm telling you, I just feel like this is so going to be something that is going to happen for you, because people need this.
Mm.
People need this in such a big way. And I'm just so grateful that you brought it to us. I'm so grateful that, you listened, because I know that this was all part of your healing journey in this and being able to do that. So, I would just love, because I know we could be here for hours. I would love to be here for hours with you. I have so much more that I want to talk about. So you may be coming on again, my friend.
Let's see.
Um,
Sounds
but
good.
I would love for you, as you continue to expand your work and your mission, what what's next for you and for release? I know you're still doing all of your holistic wellness, so I know that's all part of it, but what's lighting your heart on fire right now?
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to share this with you because I actually have not told anybody this except for like my immediate friends because I'm like, is this crazy? They're like, no, it's not crazy. It's amazing. So, what's on my heart right now? So, with release, I've been a little bit on pause from holding my own experiences and
Okay.
have been seeking out other people's experience for me to come into their room and curate things. And I do that online, and I have some really cool events coming up, and I am, still reaching out to people through call and email to give them this experience, to share with them, would you want this experience at your event? So if you're listening and you have an event coming up and you want this transformative experience, let
Yes. I need you in our school, girl. I need you in our glow up school. We need
Yeah,
this experience.
yes, absolutely done. So what God has placed on my heart, and this came out of nowhere. I was doing the Daniel fast, and I was almost like done with it, and I was like, I guess I just did the Daniel fast. I didn't really get a hit, I didn't really feel like I got a vision. But like on like the 20th day,
Hmm.
I woke up and I was in deep prayer, and God told me to buy, I don't even know how this is going to happen, but it's going to take investors to buy a house, a large house in Cave Creek,
So it's specific.
very specific, and turn it into a basically like a Christian wellness retreat center. Yeah. And it's going to need a lot of funding because
Yeah.
Jacob does not have millions over here, right? But he's like, just trust me. And to build out a state of the art gym in the garage, to build a garden in the back, to the decorations, to being like to being decorated very, just soft and serene. Have a pool in the back, a safe place where women can come. And I'll probably live on property, but where we can hold day workshops, we can hold 2-day events, mostly for female entrepreneurs, right? We can hold 1 week retreats. People can come for the weekend and heal. We just will curate it over whatever people, how people book it and how they need it. And they can either have me involved as a facilitator or basically have, rights to the house when they're there. And this is just what he's placed on my heart. And so it's going to take a lot of time and attention, but that would be the home of release. And then from there, it is right now my biggest seek out is just booking events for other women in other groups to experience release method. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Heard it
that
here
is
first.
incredible. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel so honored that our audience gets to hear about this. And, you know, if this is speaking to you, honestly, please be in touch with her because, wow, that would be incredible. Because I will tell you, and this is, the honest truth. I think I shared this with you when we first spoke. As soon as I went through this experience and I met you, I was immediately, I thought in my mind, I was like, I am, because I know a retreat is in my future in sooner rather than later. And I was like, she is on my list. Like, she is number one on my list that I need her at our retreat. So, you guys, if you are anyone out there having retreats, please, please, you want this experience. And in the meantime, for our listeners, how can they stay best connected with you, um, and all of the incredible work that you're doing?
Yes, thank you so much. I mean, easy, easy, easy. Come follow me on Instagram. I am Jaclyn Renee. I have a sister account for release.method, which, is more just to show what's going on and all these things. So if you want to get a hold of me, it's at I am Jaclyn Renee. And then you can email me hello@releasemethod.co. And what I'd love to do is I want to give you this, Noelle, I want to give you two things. I want to give you a link for people to have a free video that's a 7-minute like mini, it's technically for bloat because bloat is one of the biggest symptoms that
Okay.
people experience. A 7-minute release method somatic movement video, they can have that. And the second thing is just the link where they can inquire about booking speaking. So
Oh, amazing.
yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we are going to make sure that we have that all in the show notes. We'll get all of that information. And I just want to say from my heart, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing this with us today. I know that there are so many women out there that just needed exactly what you brought to the table today. And just remembering that, I feel like, just to be able to remember that healing is so much deeper than just the physical, and that, it's such a combination. It's our faith, it's our surrender, it's our purpose. It's all part of this journey. So I just want to say, friends, if today's episode stirred something in your heart or you feel called to reconnect with yourself on a deeper level, please go follow Jaclyn to continue being a part of her world. And again, we'll have all of the information in the show notes. And as always, thank you for being here with open hearts. And until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and know that the best is right here waiting for you today. Bye, friends.
Hi.
Thanks, Jaclyn.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me here today. Your presence means the world to me. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider leaving a rating and review, and don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Head to the show notes and let's connect. Rise to Shine Co. is ready to support you in coaching, collaboration, life tips, or even a coffee chat. Until next time, keep shining, my friends.